Going on, y'all? Welcome back to Gen Sports Corner. I am your host, Stan Jen Conaway. This is my co-host, Ryan from Ryan Sportscast, man. Say what's up to the people, dog.
What's going on, everybody?
Here we are, man. We back at it. Super Bowl Sunday is upon us, coming up soon. Before we get into it, like, subscribe, man, because we're going, we dropping content for y'all right now, man, and we have a lot to talk about with this Chiefs Eagles matchup. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and look at the path to the Super Bowl for both teams. So, starting with the Kansas City Chiefs, you had their first game in the divisional round versus the Texans, where a lot of controversy there, you know, including from some of the personnel over in Houston talking about the referees, and we've heard about that ad nauseum at this point. I don't really think there's a reason to go deeper into that. But I liked some of the things the Texans were doing. I did not expect them to win the game, but the defense showed me a lot of things. Um, but they weren't really going to be a Super Bowl contender. So the Chiefs got past them as they have with most teams. I mean, they're on a 17 game win streak where they've won by one score or less. So, they got by how they needed to. And then the following week, the big game against the Bills in the championship game, the Bills, they cannot get over that hump against Pat Mahomes. But what did you think about what some of the things that we saw in that Bills game, especially with the running game with James Cook? Because I think that's a point of contention, not just with Bills fans that they should have kept running the ball, but with Eagles fans as to what we should be doing going into this game.
Yeah, I think James Cook, I did not understand why they went away from the run at all because I thought they were running the ball very efficiently. I mean, when it comes down to it, Josh Allen doesn't even have a whole lot to work with, and when your running game is working as well as it was, you have to continue to pound that rock, man. I mean, James Cook is an absolute stud. I'm on my fantasy team this year. He was just very productive. So, I mean, for them to abandon that, I thought was just not smart. You gotta listen, man. If it's working, you gotta continue to stick with it. And I don't remember much about that game. I do remember though when that point of emphasis when I saw that they stopped running the ball, I really felt like they should have stuck with it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he had 13 carries for guess how many yards? 13 carries for how
80,
many yards?
85.
There you go, man. I mean, why do you not keep giving him the ball? And he had two touchdowns.
Yeah, man. You can't abandon that, man. When it's working that well, you just gotta ride with it, man.
Exactly, especially in a game where you lose by 3 points. This is a close game, and they were up. I do remember that point where they were up in the game, and Kansas City scored the go-ahead score in that fourth quarter, but they were up. Like, why not? We've seen this with the 49ers in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs and or the Patriots, where you get a lead and you just refuse, just against logic, to keep running the ball and just punishing them.
Yeah.
So. And last time I checked, the Chiefs' run defense has not been that good all year. I think they were solid early on, but later in the year, especially since like week 16, they've been atrocious. They've given up a lot of 100-yard rushers, and
Hmm.
we have a pretty special one over here. So going to flip side, the Eagles didn't get the 1 seed. The Lions they got it and got bounced out, but we were able to somehow have the road to the Super Bowl still go through Philadelphia. I don't know if it was just written in the stars, but you go ahead and beat Green Bay at home, and then you have a scare against the Rams. So late in the game, you had a scare, and then Jalen Carter. I mean, talk about Aaron Donald and I think was it JJ Watt? I don't know. A couple of guys were talking about him like, yo, he is the one. And we see it. They see it. He won us that game against the Rams at the end with two just dominant plays. The sack with Matt Stafford, and then the next play, the incomplete pass to the right side near Darius Slay, that was caused by Jalen Carter, wreaking havoc up front in that A gap. And
Hmm.
then you have the NFC Championship game. I mean, BTA, man. Where my belt at, man? I
Boot
mean,
to ass.
BTA. You know,
The BT. Yeah.
shout out to all the Commanders fans that are reactors. I've had quite the time just sitting back and just watching the reaction videos. It is a sight to behold, the crash outs, man.
Hmm.
But that game, what were some of the things that you took from that game? Because the end score, although it was a beatdown, the game was very, very close. I believe
Yeah,
in the second
early
quarter,
on.
it was, I
Yeah.
remember when it was 14-12 after Scary Terry got that touchdown. And then we had to come out and make plays. What were some good things and bad things you saw from that game?
I just saw from the offense, I just didn't recognize as far as our offensive goes to look as creative as it did. I thought there was a lot more wrinkles we added in that, that I just think look well improved. And like you even said in the early part of that game, we talked about this before that very first play that Saquon ripped it off. That's part of it that he just took it to the house and from being under center which you haven't seen all year long,
Right.
so just those minor details to add them into part of that game and just like that sweep to Goddard during the game that we saw. How often do we see those tight end sweeps? Just the little minor details like we always talk about that you add in these games, to add in I saw like some videos, like YouTube videos saying were they hiding these plays to save them for the playoffs? I mean, quite potentially.
Maybe.
These big time games, we don't know. But the fact that they were able to adjust and realize what worked is, I thought, was a very encouraging sign. But I don't know if I had much bad to see. Let me know if you did, but I saw a lot of really encouraging signs about that Commanders game.
Absolutely, absolutely. I really like the play calling, and as we get into talking about the Super Bowl matchups, and yeah, I've been listening back and forth on WIP, people calling in and them talking about the matchups. But one thing that stood out to me is, are we really seeing a Kellen Moore offense, or are we seeing an amalgamation of or a mixture of Kellen Moore and Frank Reich's previous offensive play calling scheme? Um,
Yeah.
because, to your point, and I pointed this out in my last video. Check it out, you guys, if you haven't seen it, where I was breaking down the first play of the game, and not specifically just because Saquon took that to the house 60 yards, more so for the scheming and the blocking and the execution on the play. So,
Mm,
just like you said, first off, when have we seen them under center, have Jalen under center? You have a single back set, bunch to the left side, and you bring Smith in motion. So three things. You have him under center. One. Two, um, you have single back bunch set to the left side. So you're immediately putting pressure on that defense to not be able to press you at the line because it's very hard to
mm,
press against a bunch set. And then
yeah.
three, which I've been screaming for since last year. And I want to preface this by saying I I'm one of the people that call for Sirianni to be fired. I'll stand up, I'll put my hand up, I'm right in front of the class. But not because I
Hmm.
think he's a bad coach, it's because I thought he was stubborn. And
Hmm.
say what you will about that. It always baffled me because I looked at him as an offensive guru, an up and coming guru. So I could not understand why he would arrogantly, in my opinion, push aside some of these basic principles. And then the
Hmm.
third one, going back to my third point, bringing Smitty in motion across the
Hmm.
right side of the field. And just simply by doing that, you're able to see if it's man or zone. And if you're running the ball and it's man, you take a defender out of the play. They're playing man
Yeah.
coverage. Smitty goes to the right. You draw a cornerback. I don't know if it was Agent Zero or who it was. Took him to the other side of the field, and now you have numbers on the left side. And then you
Hmm.
run uh, a very simple toss play, and you have AJ Brown in essence kind of crack back with his block and take out almost three people because Jordan Mailata was pulling and pushed AJ Brown that way. He apologized after on the mic'd up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just those little things, like it's not rocket science. And I know that offensively, these play callers like Sirianni and Kellen Moore, they can draw it up. So like to see them finally do it, I'm like, to your point, were you guys just keeping this in the bag until now?
Hmm.
If you were just saying for argument's sake, um, thank goodness you finally brought it out the bad because it could have ended bad against the Rams. But
Hmm.
having Smitty come into motion opened up everything on the left side, great blocking, and you just had a lane. You had a lane to run. And once you're able to seal your blocks and make it so it's hard for that safety to hit one of those gaps. I mean, you have Saquon with great lateral speed. I mean, once you have those gaps locked up, he can jump two gaps. That's not normal. Literally,
Mm,
normally you might be able to jump one gap and the defender can still hop the gap with you and get to you, but most defenders cannot hop two gaps, nor are they
right.
expecting you to do so. So I mean, just those little details, just putting your guys in position and then having the talent on top of that, it's good to see it coming together. So, like I said before, wanted Sirianni fired for the arrogance, but not for lack of ability. So now that you have the play calling correctly, I have the confidence that this team can win. We have the talent. It's just about the little essential details. That's
Mhm.
where we're at. And you're
Yeah.
gonna need that against the Andy Reid. So that's what I saw out of this championship game. And I think that defensively, Vic Fangio's just been on fire calling this defense.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
especially when we do decide to play zone, like a really good mix of cover three, cover four, and then cover six, which is a split between one side of the field is playing cover four with the deep safety over one quarter and the cornerback over one quarter, and then cover two on the other side. Um, I mean, they mix it up very, very well. So,
Mm,
that being said, I would like them to do a little bit better on dealing with stunts. That is one weakness that I can point out in the interior of this line with Mekhi Becton and Cam Jurgens at times, and that's going
yeah.
to play into Chris Jones moving forward. But that's what I saw out of the championship game. So let's go ahead and look at the matchup for Super Bowl 59 and talk about let's go to the injury report and look at some of the injuries coming into this game because we have guys that are healed up as well as obviously an Eagles legend coming back healthy and possibly playing in this game, most likely. So the injury report, as of today, I think this was like 2 hours ago. We don't really have a lot of people on that report, which is very, very encouraging. I think the only people on the report were Britton Covey, which I don't think he's going to be playing. He was on
No.
IR. He was trying to come back, but he couldn't make it happen. But it seems like BG will be playing. Smitty was a limited participant, but all signs point to him starting. Jalen Carter and some of the other guys that caught the bug this week, it seems like they'll be okay to play.
Mhm.
Seem I would imagine they have a lot of IVs and medical assistants around to be able to give us the best shot of being healthy. Um, so that is very, very good. Have you heard anything else on the injury front?
No, not really. I remember Mitchell, he actually caught the bug too, and Nolan Smith and all those guys.
Yeah.
But it seems like I know Cam's not going to be fully healthy. I know he seems like he's feeling a lot better.
Mhm.
Dickerson, it still isn't. I mean, all these guys are banged up. You know, it's
Right.
been a long season. You know, to get to this point and play for winning it all or nothing is just awesome to see.
Yeah, I think they're good enough. I mean, like obviously a lot of these guys were on the report, Dickerson with the knee and Jurgens with
Yeah.
the back, but they don't have any official designations.
No.
So
No.
as long for the guys that were really banged up, as long as they're at like 70 or 80%, I'm more than
Yeah.
happy.
We'll
Landon
be
Dick,
fine.
yeah. And the Chiefs look pretty healthy. The only person that's doubtful is Sky Moore, who's already on
Yeah.
IR. Beyond that, they seem pretty cool there. So going into this game, let's talk about some of the matchups and then we'll get into keys to victory here. So one of the first matchups that pops out to me is in the trenches, and that's where it starts and ends with me. And Andy has always built his teams inside out as well as the Eagles. And you look at our offensive line with Jurgens in the middle and then Dickerson, Mekhi Becton at the guard spots. Lane Johnson at right tackle, future Hall of Famer, and then at left tackle, obviously Jordan Mailata, matching up against this Chiefs defense. And I'm actually on Pro Football Focus here. You know, shout out to them, looking at the depth chart, and you can see how they're matched up. So over Mekhi Becton, you may have Chris Jones hopping, switching from Dickerson to Becton, depending on how they want to play it. You have Karlaftis going against Lane Johnson. That's a big matchup right there. And obviously Chris Jones with the guard. So how do you see that playing out in the trenches against their D line?
Against the D line, I think it's a very good matchup, honestly. I like our chances. I mean, I think we should impose our will early on with that run game, man, considering they've been so bad, been atrocious against the run. So I feel like we can really impose our will and, really get that run game going.
Yeah. One thing in particular, we've had a lot of explosive runs. I mean, that's pretty evident, but we're really good at getting guys out in motion, pulling
Uh,
guards in particular. So that's
mhm,
one thing I want to look for. So, for example, let's say you have Chris Jones lined up over Mekhi Becton, and they're looking to try to get a pass rush advantage. From time to time, whether it's a read option or whether it's under center, having Landon Dickerson, if he's able to, hold to the
mhm.
right and at times try to blindside Chris Jones and take him out of the play and be able to. We already operate well pulling linemen and getting explosive yards. Right
Yeah,
now, we lead the league with 28 explosive runs and 3.4 yards before contact. Like, just think about that. Think
that's
about that.
crazy.
3.5 yards damn near before contact. So, I mean, you're already putting yourself in a second and seven, second and six position. And as we know with the Eagles, depending on where we're at on the field, that's four down territory.
Mhm.
And this Chiefs defense already struggles to stop the run. They really struggled against Joe Mixon. They really struggled against James Cook. And they're probably really going to struggle against Saquon Barkley, who is, no disrespect, Offensive Player of the Year as voted by the Associated Press. And this offensive line is just, there's some dogs, boy. There's some dogs. I mean,
Yeah.
we have, I think, pound for pound, the heaviest line in the NFL. So, I mean, good luck. I don't see how that's going to change for the Chiefs. So I like the advantage here in the trenches against their D line. And then flipping that, let's look at the Eagles D line against the Chiefs in the trenches because the Chiefs are
Mhm.
an interesting bunch up front.
Mhm.
Depending on how you look at it. So for me, I look at the left side of that line, and they really had to shore that up by moving the guard Joe Tooney outside the left tackle, and he's done
Mhm.
a pretty solid job out there, patching things up for them. And then obviously you have Creed Humphreys in the middle. I mean, he might be the best center in football right now. He's a monster. And then next
Yeah,
to
yeah.
him at right guard, you have I think his first name
Mike
is
Caliendo or something?
no. That's a left guard. He wasn't a
Left guard.
starter. That's
Okay.
that's somebody who we need to pick on.
Yeah.
But right guard, I think Trey Smith. I always get his first name wrong, but probably
Yeah, I
going to
think that's
get yeah, he probably going to get the biggest contract in free agency coming up, whether he stays or leaves from Kansas
Mhm.
City. I mean, he's that matchup between Jalen Carter and Smith. What do you think of that matchup? Because I think that's one of the second most important matchups in this game.
Um, I I think it's a great matchup. I think, like you were saying to the Mike Caliendo guy, I think that's his name. He ranks 72nd out of 77 guards in the league.
Yeah.
That is a huge advantage. And the Chiefs' interior line also ranks 19th in the league. So that interior line is really going to struggle. So, you know, that's that's another part
Yeah,
that I think is
so
huge.
yeah, and I think and we'll get to this, but I this will play directly into one of my keys to victory. But I think you made a
Mhm.
very, very great point. Caliendo, you looking for a weak link, that guy, right there, that guy.
Mhm.
So moving Jalen Carter around, running stunts. The Chiefs are going to try that against the Eagles. Make no mistake
Oh yeah.
about that. And I mentioned that's you know we allow some pressure up the middle, but we can do that as well as
Yeah.
trying to um, some sometimes you can play an underfront, meaning that um, and you have one of the D tackles, the right D tackle in the three technique on the outside shoulder of the guard, i.e. Caliendo. And from time to time, and the other D tackle, the left D tackle, will be in the one technique.
Yeah.
But from time to time, you can move, I think, Jalen Carter to that three technique, or even Brandon Graham, if he's healthy enough, like he was in the Super Bowl time, to that three technique and line him over the outside shoulder of Caliendo and see how real he is.
Hmm. It's a good
So
matchup, man. I'm definitely looking forward to that matchup because I feel like we have the advantage on that big time.
absolutely. Absolutely. And then let's go ahead and look at the run game for the Eagles and the Chiefs. Run game wise, they've been really leaning on Kareem Hunt. Um, Isaac Pacheco has not been the same player since he's come back from injury. I think part of that is his running style. For somebody that is not a huge running back, he has a physical running style, and he's gotten banged up, and maybe they've kind of reeled him in a little bit because of that. But he has not been the same look. He looks for contact, but he has not been as effective with it. What do you think about
Right.
the run game
Oh, the run game. Yeah.
for the Chiefs? Yeah.
I don't know much about them. I know they haven't been the same the same running team this year ever since, like to your point, ever since he came back. And I think that's definitely a huge advantage for us. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, their running game hasn't been anything special. You just got to make sure that you play your gaps, be responsible, and just shut down and run, man, and force them
yeah,
to have to drop back and really lean on that intermediate passing game. Um,
yeah.
but I mean, running wise for the Eagles, we already know what we bring. We know what we're going to do. It's just, do you have an answer? How are you going to slow us down? It's going to be
Mhm.
very hard to stop. How do you slow this team down,
Yeah.
especially with
One,
Jalen? Yeah.
yeah, one point I forgot to bring up is the Chiefs have actually gave up the most yards to tight ends on the most
Hmm.
yards to tight ends. We all know how Dallas Goedert has been lately.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a spot to look for both teams because we are not particularly great covering the
Yeah,
middle, and that's a
yeah,
staple of Fangio's defenses. There is space to be had if you attack the middle. You saw Zach Ertz went off for what, 11 catches last week or two
yeah.
weeks ago.
He's
So
something like that.
yeah, so I see Kelsey getting a lot of targets. I see him being able to do some things over the middle. It's about, can you funnel them to certain spots of the field, and more importantly, can you disrupt the timing?
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's a tertiary matchup for both teams, but
Yeah.
one to keep an eye on. How are they going to rectify that? Because I look at Cooper DeJean from time to time, or CJ Gardner Johnson being uh, the person to match up with Kelsey. And you
Oh
didn't
yeah.
have that before.
Yep. 100%.
And it's not like we haven't been there because we played a guy called Gronk, right, to win a Super
Hmm.
Bowl. And
Yeah.
he certainly had his moments, especially in that either the second or third quarter. It might have been the second half where they started targeting him or whatnot. But we did not have somebody to match up with him in that game the way that we do now with some of our stars. Um, so looking at the secondary, I just don't see where the Chiefs receivers, unless they're really able to scheme it up and be able to get some type of a run game established so they can run play action. I just don't
Hmm.
see Smith Schuster getting open consistently. Xavier Worthy, he has the speed, like he's a speed
Yeah.
demon, but the
Yeah.
route
He's good.
running isn't there yet.
No.
Hollywood Brown again has speed, but like they haven't been able to make that connection this year. Um,
Hmm.
if you look at Pat Mahomes, he has not really been accurate down the field, ironically, like since 2019, I believe.
Hmm.
Short passes, he's on fire, but down the field, little shaky. Um,
Yeah.
and then you look to the flip side with and we play a lot of zone coverage, and he's been good against zone coverage. It's really, again, I talk about getting him off his spot. And
Hmm.
then looking on the flip side with the Eagles, how do you stop AJ Brown if they decide to play man coverage? Because
Yeah.
Trent McDuffie is probably going to be the matchup against AJ Brown because their other cornerback. Jalen Watson, who's back and he's been playing very well, he'll probably be covering Smitty. So
Mm,
if you're going to play zone, good luck stopping the run. If you're going to
mm,
play man, how are you going to beat the RPO and or the quick routes? Or if you get a one-on-one, you try to press AJ Brown. You saw what happened last week. That's what happens.
hmm. Yeah, you
Especially
don't do that. I want to bring this up before I
yeah.
forget.
Go ahead.
51%, 51% Steve Spagnuolo has man press coverage. So how are you gonna feel about doing that against AJ Brown?
If they can't get a lead, it's going to be an issue for that Chiefs defense. If they get a
Hmm.
lead, that's where Spagnuolo is able to work magic.
Yeah.
Which brings me into the point going into the keys to victory for each team. So first key to victory, um, I'll say two of them. First key to victory for the Chiefs is to slow down the Eagles' running game. That's an obvious one.
Hmm.
I just don't see it happening. Um,
Hmm.
Key to victory number two is keeping Pat Mahomes protected, giving him time, and that how the Chiefs are going to do that, I do not know, but they certainly have a task on their hands.
Hmm.
Um, because to me, it's about making Mahomes hold the ball for an extra second.
Hmm.
And then on the flip side, since we're an Eagles channel, let's focus on the Eagles and their keys to victory here. First off is conversely establishing the run, especially getting out on the edges and really making that defense have to come up and defend that because then you can get the one-on-ones on the outside and then it's lights out. Um,
Hmm.
Especially in man coverage, they're going to have a lot of issues with AJ Brown, and then people forget that Smitty. I mean, he's to me he's 1B. I mean, people don't give him the credit he should really get, but I mean, you get him one-on-one with Jalen Watkins. I know he's been playing well, but I think Smitty can have some success against Jalen Watkins, route running wise.
Definitely.
And then the to me the biggest key to this game is a gap pressure against Patrick Mahomes. If
Hmm.
you're able to get a gap pressure up the middle and stay disciplined within your pass rush lanes on the outside, he is not the same guy. And most people aren't. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
it's not to talk down on Pat Mahomes. Most quarterbacks, you're gonna have issues when you have pressure within 2.5 seconds up the middle. It's gonna be an issue. And you have one
Hmm.
of the best players in the game right now in the middle, and he doesn't come off the field. So
Yeah.
for me, I think that the Eagles will be able to win this game because the Chiefs may not have an answer for them up the middle protecting Mahomes, and they probably will have a tough time stopping that run game because they've shown no resistance against the Texans or the Bills or the four other teams prior to that they played. So
Hmm.
that's my take on the game. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I think the keys to victory also is going to be the interior part of our defense wreaking havoc. And like you said, you slow down Mahomes, and especially up that middle part. Like you said, no quarterback's the same. So I definitely agree to that. And Barkley getting going is crucial as well. So yeah, I really feel like I feel very confident about this game opposed to our last Super Bowl game. And that was obviously very close, but I feel like this is also going to be a very close game. But I think that what's really going to impact this game is the middle part of the D line.
Oh yeah, because I think that Pat Mahomes, he's been excellent against zone coverage, and the Eagles are going to mix it up, but that is where Mahomes shines. It's just going to be about allowing him to get small victories uh, while winning the bigger. You let him win the battles while you're winning the war. He can win the
Yeah.
small battles, but we're making the strategic wins in this game. That's what I'm really looking at.
Hmm.
If you get 10 yards here, 15 yards there, 5 yards there, okay, cool. But once you get into that red zone and the field starts to get compressed, being able to make him hold on to the ball and on those long drives eventually make a mistake, which is a staple of Vic Fangio's defenses. Yes, he hasn't been able to beat him when he was coaching with the 49ers. I think he was a D coordinator in one of those Super Bowls or with the Broncos. But one, look at Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, listen, it's a trend with him now. I mean, he does
Yeah.
not know how to he doesn't keep the same energy when he gets a lead, man. He just goes off script, goes off road. And
Yeah.
then with the Broncos, there were other people besides Pat Mahomes that were tearing the Broncos up, and it wasn't necessarily because of their defense, because the offense couldn't keep their defense off the field, even though they had the
Yeah.
no-fly zone. So
Mhm.
I think it will be a very, very high level chess game between all coaches involved,
Yeah.
particularly Andy Reid and Vic Fangio. And obviously Sirianni and then Spagnuolo is it's a great matchup. But I think that the Eagles will have a little bit more to bring to this matchup, and I think they will be able to get this victory.
Yeah. And they one point I do want to bring out in the first matchup, I
Yeah.
feel like they need to be better on special teams as well.
Woo!
Not only Jake Elliott with his missed extra points, but how many big runs we have given up with, to some of these other teams, like especially in the Super Bowl that year, because remember those
Yeah.
long runs from, on special teams. So that's also a huge factor as well.
Right. Right. Jake, if you're listening, don't care how many misses you had, just do your job tomorrow, and you'll go down in history, man. You'll go down in history
100%.
as one of the best Eagles kickers ever.
Especially if he wins gets that game winning field goal for us too.
Exactly. Exactly.
Come down to that.
Yeah, so what Cody Parkey was here for the first one? Was that Cody Parkey or was
Yeah,
that
yeah,
okay?
yeah. It was Cody Parkey. Yeah.
Okay, so now Jake Elliott has a chance to solidify his legacy. You have Cody Parkey, and then you have David Akers. Even though you didn't win one, I still got David Akers up here. So you're
Oh
trying
yeah,
to surpass that, man. So we'll see, man.
yeah.
But listen, let us know what you think about the breakdown, the analysis, the predictions. If we made you mad, sorry. This I'm not just doing this because I'm a homer. It's because I think that the Eagles match up very, very well against the Chiefs this time around, especially playing them before and knowing what they're about. And the Chiefs, they got a chance to make history. Will we stop the three-peat, or will the Eagles start the next run in the NFL? We will find out. Anything else you want to say on closing notes, man?
I pretty much covered everything.
My man. Well, listen, tune in tomorrow. Big game. Philly gonna be lit. Win or lose, the city's gonna be is gonna be wilding. So, let's make sure it's a win. And hopefully I can catch all you Eagles fans out on Broad Street, especially at the parade, man. Catch you on the next one, man. Deuces.